Twitter stock drops like a stone as we go into the first trading of the year after they banned Donald Trump. Some less important things happened, such as some investigations happening at the Capitol into the violence that went along in there. 25 domestic terrorism cases have been opened against people who were possibly in the Capitol building at the time. Several politicians weigh in as to whether or not they believe that impeachment is proper at this time. And somebody wrote Trump on the back of a manatee. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today. Some very, very unimportant stuff, like impeachment or domestic terrorism cases or somebody writing Trump on a manatee's ass. We've got all that to get to, but we've got some really, really important stuff to go through the top of the show after we get through the stocks. But before we get into any of it, head on over to freedomscoop.com. FreedomScoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, where we carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The R-Rated Conservative, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators over there. All right, moving on into the Dow, looking at what happened there. The Dow stayed down throughout the entire day. They almost hit what the previous close was at 31.90.19. I believe the previous close was 31.92. But then they dropped back off again, ending the day 0.29% down, 89.28 points down. They were almost, 60, 70 points down? 38.99.88 was the lowest point that they hit throughout the day, and they stayed down throughout the rest of the day. Now, it looks like the futures are going to turn around on this, but once again, what we always know and what we've been seeing about the stocks is where there is no certainty, your stocks drop off. Let's look at Bitcoin for the morning. Bitcoin started its way back up again, now holding at 34,501, even. So let's pop in the chat here and see what we've got. Oh, we dropped off, that's why. All right, we're back up on. No, DLive is back up. DLive is back up. We just lost connection there for just a second. For just a very, very briefest of brief seconds. Talking about the Bitcoin as well. Going on to see what the investors had to say. Yeah, I lost everything off of this one. So, going into Investors Business Daily. We're going to keep on going. But yes, DLive is back up. From IBD, Dow Jones Futures signal modest gains as Bitcoin recovers. Neo Tesla set to rally while Zoom slides. From Scott Latonin, Dow Jones Futures along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ 100 Futures rallied early Tuesday as the price of Bitcoin looked to recover from Monday's plunge. Apple stock is approaching a new buy point while Neo surged to new highs. Tesla dived Monday amid a potential climax top, but rallied about 2% early Tuesday. Zoom Video tumbled more than 5% early Tuesday on a share offering. The stock market rally fell from record highs Monday amid moderate declines in the major stock indices. The Dow Jones Industrial Average eased 0.3% or 89 points, while the S&P 500 slid 0.7%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ Composite declined 1.25%. Hang on, I gotta fix something, because otherwise we're going to have autoplay going everywhere. Bear with me for just a second. All right, that'll stop the autoplay. All right, back to what we were doing. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple sold off 2.3%, while Microsoft lost 1%. Meanwhile, Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter all fell sharply. Amazon stock declined 0.15%, Facebook dropped 0.4%, and Twitter tumbled 6.4%. However, chip giants at AMD and Nvidia advanced 2.8% and 2.6% respectively. AMD hit a new high, while Nvidia is approaching a new buy point, according to IBD MarketSmith chart analysis. Tesla dived nearly 8% as it flashes several signs of a potential climax top. Shares look to rebound Tuesday, rising about 2% in pre-market trade. Chinese rival NIO surged 6.4% to hit record highs after unveiling its new sedan at its annual NIO Day. Shares added about 1.5% pre-market. I would be willing to put some money down right now that going into a Democratic presidency, given what we've seen with gas prices every time a Democrat is in office, for my lifetime at least, and even a little bit before, because I remember they talked about the gas crunch under Carter too. But given what we've seen under Democrat presidents throughout my lifetime, I would be willing to at least put money that Tesla's going to go somewhere this year, because gas prices are going to go up. We're going to start seeing a lot more people interested in buying a NIO or a Tesla or something that GM puts out that's in the same way, or a Nissan Leaf or a Prius or something like that. Because we're probably going to see $3 to $4 a gallon again. So let's watch for that as we go along here. Early Tuesday, Zoom Video said it is seeking to raise $1.5 billion through a stock sale. Zoom stock tumbled more than 5% in pre-market trade. Shares ended Monday more than 40% off their 52-week high. All right, on the futures. Early Tuesday, Dow Jones futures and S&P 500 futures traded up 0.3% versus fair value. NASDAQ 100 futures moved up 0.4%. Remember, overnight trading in Dow Jones futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, let's have a look at what CNBC has to say, and then we will move into the big news on the week. Stocks are set to resume 2021 gains, with Dow futures up 60 points, from Fred Imbert and Maggie Fitzgerald. U.S. equity futures were slightly higher early Tuesday after breaking a winning streak as investors grew worried about stocks' stretched valuations. Dow Jones futures industrial average added 68 points or 0.2%. S&P futures and NASDAQ 100 futures gained 0.2% and 0.3% respectively. On Monday, equities dipped as investors evaluated lofty stock valuations amid recent record highs, seemingly disregarding the backdrop of COVID-19 and political turmoil. Tesla closed down 7.8% for its first negative day in 12 and worst day since September 23rd. Tesla shares were higher by about 2% in pre-market trading Tuesday. Double Line Capital founder Jeff Gundlach on Monday warned of the market's extremely high valuations relative to historical standards amid the risk of rising inflation. At extraordinary high valuations is where we are, and it's being supported by massive amounts of stimulus, Gundlach told CNBC's Scott Wapner on Halftime Report. If you go back 4 decades of stock market data, there are many valuation metrics that are in the top 1 percentile of overvaluation. So the thing that's keeping it going, of course, is the Fed with rates at zero and promises to stay at zero, Gundlach added. This allows for valuations to be record-breakingly high. So the investors are nervous coming into this, which I'm sure that Congress doesn't like either. So we will see what comes out of that and where that goes. I'm seeing that we possibly will see a little bit of rise coming in, especially after Inauguration Day, but a very, very sharp decline as fuel prices go up and corporate taxes and corporate regulations start to go up. So we will see what happens from that. Let's keep going in the big news for the morning. Twitter loses $5 billion in market value after Trump is permanently barred from the platform. This is from Business Insider's Market Insider. From Theron Mohammed. Twitter stock fell as much as 12% on Monday after the social media company permanently suspended President Trump's account on Friday evening. The share price decline wiped out $5 billion from Twitter's market capitalization. Twitter's bosses suspended Trump's account, which had about 88 million followers, after the world's Leaders fanning of conspiracy theories about voter fraud and election theft spurred thousands of his supporters to lay siege to the Capitol last week. As a Wisconsin resident, as somebody who saw the Act 10 riots, that was not laying siege to a Capitol. And the Wisconsin riots were like a 20th of what happened up in Washington, D.C. And they still didn't lay siege, you assholes. After close review of recent tweets from Donald Trump's account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said. The ban followed Facebook's suspension of Trump for at least the rest of his presidency. CEO Mark Zuckerberg defended the decision on a Facebook post on Thursday, arguing that Trump appeared intent on using his account to undermine a peaceful transition of power and risk sparking more violence. Twitter stock likely fell because investors are worried the Trump ban will erode interest in the platform and lead to boycotts among those who see the decision as politically motivated, which it is, and a way to silence major conservative voices. And that's all that they have of this. And I mean, like I said, Elaine and I talked about this last night. We've talked about this on Contemporary numerous times. I've talked about this in solo videos numerous times. I've tweeted about this. I've talked about this at length. Because Twitter was circling the drain in 2014. Because nobody gave a fuck about the platform. And the only reason people started giving a fuck about the platform was because it became the preferred platform of President Donald Trump. Because he could go on there and say something, and every media pundit wanted to look at that and say, well, this is why he's so racist. And every person with MAGA in their handle wanted to go on there and bask in the glory that is Donald Trump. Donald Trump propped up Twitter. I don't care how much Jack Dorsey wants to deny it. Donald Trump propped up Twitter. If it hadn't been for him, Twitter would not have been propped back up, and it probably would have gone the way of MySpace by now. And without him on there, as people try to get to Parler, because they're going to go there no matter how many places try to block it. Tech geeks are going to come up, and they're going to say, hey, we could probably make some money off of this. Let's build Parler a site, and it's going to come back up to money. You can be political and ideological all you want, but in the end, it all comes down to money above anything else. And this, just the same, will come down to money. And with that, either Twitter's going to start letting people back on, or they are going to go the way of MySpace, because without that little bump, without people wanting to be the first one on there, to be the reply guy to Donald Trump, what else are they going to do? Go pick on another MAGA account that has 145 followers and try to get their clout that way? About the only thing left on Twitter is libertarians and far left people. Which the libertarians will tend to communicate with each other, and the far left will run back into their echo chamber and do whatever the mainstream news media tells them. But yeah, pretty much at this point, that's all that left, because MAGA is going to start making a migration. So we will see what happens with that. It looks like they might be starting to rebound. I've started to see some of my friends say that their accounts have rebounded with followers. Mine has not. I have lost just shy of 400 followers on Twitter over this whole thing. And I had a brief little instance where people were starting to come back, but then they wiped it all back out. I went from knocking on the door of 1,800 to 1,400. 1,403 this morning. So we will see what happens with that. All right, let's keep going. From Newsweek. Ron Paul blocked from accessing his Facebook page over violating community standards. From Alexandria Hutzler. Former Republican Congressman Ron Paul says he's been blocked by Facebook from managing his account over repeated violations of the social media giant's community standards. With no exception other than repeatedly going against our community standards, Facebook has blocked me from managing my page. Never have we received notice of violating community standards in the past, and nowhere is the offending post identified, Paul wrote on Twitter on Monday. The post included a screenshot of his Facebook page, which had the message informing him of his limited functionality. Paul wrote in a second Twitter post that the only thing he put on Facebook on Monday, was my weekly Texas Straight Talk column, which I've published every week since 1976. Newsweek reached out to Facebook for comment on why Paul was blocked and which of his posts violated the community standards, but did not receive a response before publication. Senator Rand Paul, a Kentucky Republican and Paul's son, responded to Facebook's action by writing on Twitter, "Facebook now considers advocating for liberty to be sedition. Where will it end?" The column Paul posted Monday to his Facebook page was about tech censorship. In the days following the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol, Twitter, Facebook, and other sites took action against Trump, commenting on blocking the president from publishing content. The social media giants cited rules prohibiting content that incites violence. Last week's massive social media purges, starting with the president and other outlets, was shocking and chilling, particularly to those who value free expression and the free exchange of ideas, Paul wrote in the column. So, his page is still there. Like, you can go back and look at it. I know a lot of people were coming on saying, well, don't be dramatic, okay? Well, it's still there. They didn't ban you. Why are you trying to talk like this? Are you trying to start an insurrection with stuff like this? What in the hell, Ron Paul? And that's all true. You can still go back on there. The insurrection stuff, that's not true. But yeah, you can still, the page still exists. You can still go there. He just can't moderate it currently. So we will see what comes back out of this. I don't know when he's going to have access to this again. And I would love to see Zuckerberg try to come out and tell us what it was exactly that he did wrong. All right, let's keep going. From CNN, Facebook bans Stop the Steal content 69 days after the election. And we are streaming to Facebook right now, so all I have to say to you, Zuckerberg, and every other moderator who has to watch this video in its entirety, including where we had some tech difficulties at the beginning, stop the steal, 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 stop the steal. Enjoy, moderators. Facebook will begin removing all content that mentions the phrase "stop the steal" a full 69 days before Election Day. The social media giant said in a blog post that it will ramp up enforcement against the phrase because it was used by those who participated in last week's riots at the U.S. Capitol. With continued attempts to organize events against the outcome of the U.S. presidential election that can lead to violence, and use of the term by those involved in Wednesday's violence in D.C., we're taking this additional step in the lead-up to the inauguration. Guy Rosen, Facebook's VP of Integrity, wrote in a post about the company's preparation for Inauguration Day. Excuse me. On Election Day, the slogan "Stop the Steal" quickly became a rallying cry among President Trump's supporters, many of whom were egged on by Trump himself and his allies with false claims of election fraud. As a hashtag, its origins date back years, according to Facebook's CrowdTangle analysis tool. But it became wildly popular in recent months as a gathering place for conspiracy theories about the election outcome. Facebook added that it will continue its weeks-long ban on all U.S. political advertising, including by Trump, whose account Facebook suspended indefinitely on January 7th. Rosen said Facebook rolled out a new emergency measure last week. For example, Rosen said, group administrators will increasingly be required to review posts before they can be published, and comments that contain hate speech or incitement may be removed from group posts entirely. The blog post comes as tech companies confront mounting skepticism about whether they did too little too late to prevent the violence that swept the Capitol, and that continues to be a risk heading into President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration next week. We will talk about that as well, because Muriel Bowser has decided that D.C. needs to become a military state. So we will see what happens with that. Let's keep going. From NBC, Russian opposition leader Navalny slams Trump ban as censorship. And being a Russian, he knows a little something about censorship. From Matthew Bodner, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny slammed Twitter's decision to ban President Trump from its platform as an acceptable act of censorship, arguing that the move opened the door for the Kremlin to demand social media companies permanently suspend Russian opposition figures. You mean they don't? That would be news to me. In my opinion, the decision to ban Trump was based on emotions and political preferences, Navalny wrote in a lengthy Twitter thread posted on Sunday evening. Do not tell me he was banned for violating Twitter rules. I get death threats here every day for many years, and Twitter does not ban anyone. Not that I ask for it. On Monday, a spokesperson for Angela Merkel said the German leader sees the decision by Twitter, followed by other social media companies, as problematic. And when Angela Merkel says you're doing too much censorship, by God, you are doing too goddamn much censorship. Merkel's spokesman elaborated, saying that the Chancellor considers free speech a fundamental and basic right that should only be limited if you're speaking out against the German government. I'm sorry, by legal means, rather than the decisions of social media company executives. However, she does believe that social media companies have considerable responsibility to prevent the further erosion of civic dialogue. Okay, when Russians and Germans are telling you you're having too much censorship, you really need to start rethinking your life at this point. Let's keep going. I got another one from Newsweek. Mccain says Capitol rioters should be sent to Guantanamo Bay. From Janice Williams. Mccain has a few ideas on how the U.S. government should handle the rioters who stormed the Capitol in Washington, D.C. The View co-host suggested people found guilty of insurrection and storming the nation's capital should be treated the same manner as those responsible for the 9/11 attacks. I think we just need to treat the domestic terrorists the way we do actual terrorists. I think we need to consider all the possibilities. I'm not against sending these people to Gitmo. That may sound extreme. These are domestic terrorists who attacked our own republic. They should be treated the same way we treat Al-Qaeda, McCain said during Monday's show. Yeah, that's John's daughter, all right. I couldn't think of anybody else to carry that totalitarian torch of John McCain. Next, she'll be saying that brown people need to be bombed in order for Christianity to take hold in Israel once again. McCain shared similar sentiments before the show, writing on Twitter that the MAGA terrorists should be prosecuted like any other terrorists who have attacked our homeland and be given the same severity of consequences. Well, so much for innocent until proven guilty. She added, they should also be tried for treason, no mercy. This is a call to war. What's the penalty for treason? Does anybody know? What is the penalty for treason? And what is it that Meghan McCain now is calling to happen to these people? What is it that she's trying to say at this point? Because this is some dangerous territory, you guys. This is probably a direction we don't need to be going in this country. And yet, that's John McCain's daughter. I can't think of anybody else who could carry it on so well. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire. 2 Capitol Police officers suspended, 10 to 15 under investigation for alleged behavior during Capitol riot. From John Brown. 2 Capitol Police officers have been suspended for their alleged actions during the riots that recently rocked the Capitol, Representative Tim Ryan told reporters on Monday. Ryan, who is the chair of the House Appropriations Subcommittee that is investigating the police response to last week's riot at the Capitol, said during the press call that about 10 to 15 other individuals were under investigation for their alleged behavior during the incident, according to CNN. Another House aide claimed that as many as 17 officers are under investigation as part of 8 investigations into how the violence and vandalism were able to take place at the Capitol. I know that there were 2 people that were suspended, Ryan said. One was a selfie officer, and another was an officer that put on a MAGA hat that started directing some people around. Oh God, He put on a MAGA hat. The horror! The horror! He might be a domestic terrorist himself. According to reports from the multiple outlets, one of the officers put on a Make America Great Again hat and directed at people around the building. Okay, this paragraph and this paragraph are exactly the same, just in reverse. Ryan maintained that another person had been arrested, though he was unsure if the person was a police officer or a member of the National Guard. A spokesperson for the Ohio lawmaker later retracted that claim. A number of social media have indicated concerns about individual officers who, if you look at the video, may have been taking selfies with some of the seditionists or even let them in. Seditionists, there's that word again. That person right there, Zoe Lofgren, should be sued for defamation. Right there. Who chairs one of the House committees that supervises the Capitol Police. We need to thoroughly investigate that, but I also know there were many officers who responded with tremendous bravery. Many officers were injured protecting the Capitol, and we do thank them for their patriotism in protecting this temple of democracy. Just for the record, so we're all clear, these are the same people who said, defund the police! Defund the police! Because you'll notice that Zoe Lofgren has that mysterious D in front of her name. So, fuck the police unless they're protecting us. Essentially, is what I'm getting out of Zoe Lofgren here. No, these are special police. We don't have to worry about them. These are special police. We can fund these guys. They protect our sacred temple. It's religious. It's two religions theory is what it is, and I've talked about it on the RRC. I've talked about it on my show. I was supposed to go talk about it on Brian Nichols, but I never got around to it. All right, let's keep going. From CNN. At least 25 domestic terrorism cases have been opened after the U.S. Capitol breach. Congressman says Army Secretary told him. From Paul LeBlanc. At least 25 domestic terrorism cases have been opened in the wake of Wednesday's U.S. Capitol breach that engulfed the nation's capital in chaos. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy told Democratic Representative Jason Crow, according to a news release from the congressman's office. Crow, a member of the House Armed Services Committee, said McCarthy relayed the figures in a phone call on Sunday and told him that long guns, Molotovs, explosive devices, and zip ties were all recovered by authorities as a wide-ranging investigation unfurls. CNN reached out to McCarthy regarding the call summary and did not receive an immediate response. The list of domestic terrorism cases that have been opened add to a growing understanding of the extremist elements of the crowd that pushed through the barriers set up along the perimeter of the Capitol on Wednesday. You guys, I'm not telling you to stop because you've got the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. I'm just saying you're treading along a very, very dangerous line right now that I don't think you want to try to come back from. This is war incitement right here. Seditionists, extremist, terrorist, Gitmo. There's a line against other U.S. citizens that you do not want to cross. I am telling you right now, you need to stop this before somebody gets hurt. And the blood is going to be on CNN's hand. Now, of course, they're the media, so they're going to get away with it because all the other media companies in a vertical monopoly will say, oh, it's just the evil Trump supporters. The media could never be wrong because we have the freedom of speech. We have the freedom of speech, don't you know? Unless it's an Obama or a Biden or a Harris that's coming out and cracking down on us. And we'll talk about Harris cracking down on shit later on, too. But we have the freedom that we can never be wrong, okay? Meanwhile, they will have blood on their hands if they keep going down this path. And I will be the first one to come out and tell it to them, too. You keep going down this path. And I was very careful not to call the Antifa people extremists. I let it slip a couple times. I will admit when I'm wrong. But they were standing up for an ideal, and they did have the freedom of speech, too. Yes, they were destroying property. Yes, there were billions of dollars of business damage destroyed. And they were going in and destroying their own neighborhoods, too, which is beyond stupid. But I mean, to other half of the country right now, CNN is going up, especially as one of the biggest outlets in the country, to turn around. And I don't want to say what it is that they're going to start because YouTube is probably looking for an excuse to get rid of independent commentary, but they've got something coming. So that's what's going on with CNN. Let's keep going here. From Axios. Bowser calls for more DHS security for Biden's inauguration due to continued threat of violence. From Orion Rumler. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser asked the Department of Homeland Security to extend federal assistance with maintaining security in the city for Joe Biden's inauguration on January 20th, citing the chaos, injury, and death that stemmed from a pro-Trump mob breaching the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. Bowser cited that the continued threat of violence related to the breach, asking the DHS to extend the designation that will allow the U.S. Secret Service to lead security coordination for events January 11th to the 24th for the inauguration. The current period is January 19th to the 21st. In its decision to permanently ban President Trump from the site, Twitter referenced apparent plans for future army protests, proliferation on and off of the website, including a proposed secondary attack on the U.S. Capitol and state capitol buildings on January 17th of 2021. Bowser also requested that the Department of the Interior cancel all public gathering permits in D.C. January 11th to the 24th, which she noted had been a repeated request since June due to the coronavirus pandemic. Bowser's request calls for allowing U.S. Secret Service to lead security operations in designated areas surrounding the inauguration, including the U.S. Capitol and its grounds. The bottom line, D.C. will already be under a state of emergency until 3 p.m. on January 21st, the day after Biden's inauguration, which is expected to draw a smaller crowd than usual due to coronavirus restrictions. No, I hate to tell you this, it's not because of coronavirus restrictions, it's because nobody gives a fuck about the feeble old man. Nobody gives a goddamn about him. They don't want to be there, but of course, now Bowser's got a request that people don't go there, and that's an older news story too. I almost brought that in because the Blaze had it on their front page, but I looked into it a little bit further, and that's actually 6 days old. This is a little bit more updated. This is from yesterday. But yes, Bowser's asking people not to go to Biden's inauguration. And of course, the Capitol breach is going to fuel that. But Bowser's asking them. And Joe Biden's been asking people not to go since the media started calling it for him. Because now he can come on and say, come on, man, you can't expect that I was supposed to have a good crowd. We have coronavirus here. And I asked people not to come. Instead of trying to make up an excuse for why nobody went, because, once again, nobody gives a fuck about Joe Biden. And of course, if the progressives who want to do something about numbers because we've got to hurt Trump's ego, we got to show that so many more people watched Biden's inauguration than Trump, they can get all their devices in home. You know, like, just in front of me, I've got the tablet, the phone, the laptop. I've got another tablet that I'm fixing to give to my dad, that I could go and stream this all on. Plus my iPod, I could stream it on. And I got a feeling that a lot of them are going to do this. A lot of the Never Trump people are going to do this. They're going to bot this inauguration. Oh, I could do it on the Fire Stick too. That's 6 people that could be watching instead of 1. If I were to go down to DC and watch the inauguration. They can bot the shit out of this. But of course, now they can come up with a lie and say, oh, well, there's a perfectly logical explanation for why Joe Biden didn't get a big crowd as his inauguration. We told him not to. We told him not to come. So, that's what we see coming out from that. Let's keep going. From The Hill. Clinton backs Trump impeachment, but warns it won't remove white supremacy. From Eris Folly. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says in a new op-ed that she supports President Trump's impeachment, following the violent rioting at the Capitol by a mob of his supporters last week, but warned that the move won't remove white supremacy from America on its own. In the opinion piece, which was published in the Washington Post on Monday, Clinton called the violence seen in Washington on Wednesday the tragically predictable result of a white supremacist grievance fueled by President Trump. But his departure from office
whether immediately or on January 20th, will not solve the deeper problems that exposed by this episode. What happened is cause for grief and outrage. It should not be the cause for shock, she wrote. That we are too often passed off as the rantings of an unfortunate but temporary figure in public life are, in reality, part of something much bigger. That's the challenge that confronts us all. Clinton said the recent violence prompted her to reflect on her past time as a senator in New York, her experiences during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and the 9/11 Commission report that followed. Yep, they're going to keep trying to make this into the next 9/11 here, so watch for your crackdowns to come. Because if this is the next 9/11, that means that we get more Patriot Act, more online censorship, more listening in on your phones, and more travel restrictions. I saw some people talking on Twitter last night about putting MAGA people on the no-fly list. I have not been able to verify that. But at this point, it wouldn't surprise me either. So Clinton is all for the Trump impeachment. Again. But just remember, it's all those white supremacists that wouldn't vote for her. That's the real problem. Let's keep going. From the New York Post. Kevin McCarthy, some House Republicans favor censure of Trump over the Capitol riot. From Stephen Nelson. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said Monday that some Republicans want to censure, rather than impeach President Trump over the handling of Wednesday's Capitol riot. Kevin McCarthy wrote in a letter to GOP colleagues that he opposes impeaching Trump for a second time, but that some Republicans favor the less severe form of reprimand. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi plans to begin impeachment proceedings and a potential vote on Wednesday. The Senate won't hold Trump's trial until after he leaves office on January 20th, but if he's convicted in a Democrat-led body, he could be barred from holding office again. McCarthy's letter indicates that other Republicans may argue against impeachment on the grounds that Trump should be rebuked in a different form. Personally, I continue to believe that an impeachment at this time would have the opposite effect of bringing our country together when we need to get America back on a path towards unity and civility, McCarthy wrote. Notwithstanding the Speaker's push towards impeachment, I've heard from members across our conference that have raised at least 4 potential avenues available to the House to ensure that events of January 6th are rightfully denounced and prevented from occurring in the future. A first option, he wrote, was a resolution of censure under the rules of the House. Censures are nearly as rare as impeachment, and one hasn't been adopted against a president in more than 100 years. The first and most famous instance of the censuring of President Andrew Jackson was in 1834, Senate vote in a fight over banking policy. So McCarthy's trying to find the other way out of this here because, you're absolutely right at this point. You do the second impeachment. You spend millions of dollars going into that, closed-door meetings, votes, etc., and a trial that isn't set to take place until after he's out of office. It's all symbolic at this point. It's all symbolic. All right. I got another one here from the Hill. Christie. Because he's Chris fucking Christie. Hey, which way is the wind blowing? Which way is the political wind blowing? Oh, that's the way I'm going to go. That Chris Christie. If Trump's actions aren't impeachable, then I don't really know what is. From Joseph Choi. Former Republican New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said on one Sunday that he believed President Trump's actions before supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol last week amounted to an impeachable offense. While appearing on ABC's This Week, Christie, a former U.S. attorney who has supported Trump, said the Republicans in Congress would have to vote their conscience if an impeachment article is brought forward and look at what happened. What we had was an incitement to riot at the United States Capitol. We had people killed, and to me, there's not a whole lot of question here, said Christie. All right, let's listen to this. Because we can do that. Because I fixed the autoplay that was going on in the back.
now, but if an impeachment resolution actually comes to the floor, won't many Republicans be hard-pressed to oppose it?
Yeah, listen, I think they're all going to have to vote their conscience and look at what happened. I mean, what we had was an incitement to riot at the United States Capitol. We had people killed, and to me, there's not a whole lot of question here. So, you know.
So you think it was an impeachable
as I've
offense?
said before, Jordan. Oh, sure, yeah, and
you'd vote to impeach.
I think that, you know, well, that's if I think it's an impeachable offense, that's exactly what I would do, George. But I'm not in.
Hey, which way's the wind blowing? Oh, it's blowing to the left. Okay, I'm gonna act like a Democrat for a little while.
In there, but you want my opinion? That's my opinion. I think if inciting to insurrection isn't, then I don't really know what is. But I will say too that the Democrats, by what they did earlier on Ukraine, have kind of cheapened this a little bit too. And I think that, you know, these are the type of actions which, you know, this mechanism was put into place for. And you know, I think a lot of Republicans at this point, I'm sure that Congressman Kinzinger is right that there's some fear someplace, but I haven't heard it this week. What I've heard from fellow Republicans is that they've had enough, and that the president's conduct, quite frankly, since then, has gotten them upset. I mean, it is a national disgrace, George, that the flag at the White House is not at half staff for that Capitol Hill police officer, Kinnick, who gave his life in protecting one of our institutions of democracy. If we're having a fit of pique, and that's why we're not putting the flag at half staff, it's just another example of why people think that, you know, these decisions are not being made on the merits. These decisions are being made purely with an idea of what's in my own personal, you know, desire at the moment on the part of the president, and so it's just wrong.
Sorry, listening to the end of that just made me want to fucking throw up in my mouth. What an ass bag. This is a person who, once again, and I said the same thing about Loeffler. I said it last night about Loeffler. I said the same thing about McConnell. I've said the same thing about a lot of people, a lot of Republicans in the House right now, who looked at this, looked at the MAGA crowd, who were all excited to go vote for Trump because he was on the ballot, who decided to kneel down and kiss Trump's ass during the campaign season. And McConnell was one of the worst ones because he put up his little fucking turkey gullet and put on his happy turtle face and said, "We're not going to impeach. We're not going to vote to convict that. We're not even going to have the trial. We're going to have the vote right there." Because he was up for re-election this year. And then at the end, now even he's turning his back on Donald Trump, but of course in doing so, he's looking at his followers, the ones who are wearing red hats, and saying, "Well, thank you for your vote, but now I've got to do what my conscience says. And thanks for all that money too, by the way." What a disgusting... And Christie was the same fucking way. Like, all the fundraising he did on behalf of Trump, he got a butt ton of money off of supporting Trump. And now that it looks like he's going to be out of office, hey, guess what? Suddenly, he's got his back turned on Donald Trump. And once again, this really doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It really doesn't. It's, for the most part, they hate you. They wanted your vote, especially if you're MAGA. They wanted your vote. They will tell you whatever you wanted to hear to get it. And those 75 million people that voted for Trump, that was no joke. These people wanted all those votes. They wanted the clout from all these people. They wanted the political favors that come from getting the support of these people. And now they don't give a fuck. All right, let's keep going. From Ron's favorite website in the world, from Ron's favorite businessman in the entire world, from Bloomberg, McCarthy opposes impeachment, privately floats other responses. Actually, I think this is going to be the exact same thing as the New York Post article we just read, so we might skip over this one. Now that I've read deeper into the New York Post article, when I put both of these up, All I had was headlines. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy on Monday told colleagues he remains opposed to impeaching President Trump in connection with last week's riots at the U.S. Capitol, but is floating other responses, including censure of the president. Yeah, this is exactly the same. We're going to skip over this one. This is exactly the same. It just comes from Michael Bloomberg, who funds politicians in Oklahoma to try and flip that state. All right, from the Hill. Manchin, who is the hero of the right now, hopefully, House impeachment plan is ill-advised. From Jordan Carney. Senator Joe Manchin said on Monday that a House plan to vote this week to impeach President Trump is ill-advised, warning that there aren't the votes in the Senate to convict the president. I think this is so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all the people, when we're going to be so divided and fighting again. Let the judicial system do its job, said Manchin, who represents a state where Trump is very popular. Manchin added that he did not believe there would be the support in the Senate to meet the two-thirds vote required to convict Trump. I'm actually 50-50 on that because of all the people who turned their back on him. I think that there is a distinct possibility that when their re-elections aren't there and the popular, because they're popular people, not popular people, but, people on the ground, people like you and me who are turning their back on there. There's one Twitter follow that I follow. Her name is Irene. And she was like a massive Trump worshiper until like yesterday. And now she's worshiping at the feet of Romney, of all people, saying that he was a fine man. Never mind the fact that he was a fucking warmongering fucking pig, but she's worshiping at the feet of that one. So there are a lot of, just regular yous and me's out there that are turning their back on him. So I think there actually might be the political will to get the conviction. But the fact that the trial isn't going to come until after Inauguration Day just makes this seem like a completely pointless endeavor, especially considering the fact that the Southern District of New York wants to come up and put up the charges too. So, yeah, there's a lot of problems that go along with this. All right. I think it's so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all people, when we're going to be so divided and fighting again. Let the judicial system do its job, said Manchin, who represents a state where Trump was very popular. Manchin added that he did not believe that there would be the support in the Senate to meet the two-thirds vote required to convict Trump. He indicated that he had been trying to convey that message to the House amid its discussion about the path forward following last week's attack on the Capitol. We've been trying to send that message over. We know the votes aren't there, Manchin said. A spokesperson for Manchin didn't immediately respond to a question about any conversations he or other senators have had about the House impeachment efforts. House Democrats appear poised to impeach Trump for a second time on Wednesday after supporters of the president breached the Capitol, including entering both the House and Senate chambers, forcing Vice President Pence and lawmakers to suspend the counting the Electoral College votes. Manchin's going to be the hero of the Republic. We are putting way too much pressure on one person, especially given the fact that the people who are actually in his political party are putting pressure on the opposite side. And I'm going to come out and say it. I think he's going to fold. I think he is going to fold. I think Kamala's going to get her fucking claws into him, and he's going to fold. And you're going to see the filibuster go away. And you're going to see Puerto Rico statehood. D.C., no, you're not going to see that. The Supreme Court will stop that. But you're going to see Puerto Rico statehood. You're going to see the packed Supreme Court. I think he is going to fold. So, we will see what happens with that. I got just a few more here, then we'll do Twitter trending and head on out of here. I got another one from Bloomberg. Oh. Apparently I got too far past my introductory offer. Now he wants me to pay him money. We'll save this one because I do want to talk about this because it looks like some of the banks are pulling back. Deutsche Bank was in there. We'll save this one. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. Controversy surrounds Kamala Harris's first Vogue cover. From Timothy Perry. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is featured on the cover of February 2021 issue of Vogue, but controversy over the selected cover photo has overshadowed the magazine's debut. The cover photo, which began circulating on social media late Saturday, shows Harris with her arms crossed wearing a dark suit and her trademark Converse sneakers in front of the pink and green backdrop, an ode to Harris's sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. The magazine later released the additional photo, a portrait of Harris wearing a powder blue suit, with a source familiar with the photo shoot told CBS News had been the agreed-upon image that would be featured as the cover. Aides to Harris and Vogue had the understanding that the blue suit gold background would be the cover photo. Without telling Harris's team, Vogue changed it to the pink-green photo, which the Vice President-elect's team did not agree to, the source said. I don't give a fuck about this, but I wanted to prepare you guys because this is what the news is going to be for the next 4 years. Celebrity gossip over who chose what photo to be on the cover. Biden's socks, Biden's dogs. This is going to be your news for the next 4 years. I hope you are prepared for this. I am going to try to actually get a critical eye into the Harris administration, like I did with the Trump administration. So, but, I'm not going to be able to take it from mainstream sources because, hey, we just want to talk about Joe Biden's dogs and not his senility. Another source described Harris's team as being blindsided when the cover was released. Yes, this is news. This is newsworthy. All right, let's keep going. 2 more. Then we'll do Twitter trending and head on out of here. Defeat the NRA. Biden's statement on the Tucson shooting riles gun rights advocates. From Joe Militzer over at Fox 2 out of, does it tell me where this is out of? St. Louis. On Friday, President-elect Joe Biden released a statement on the 10th anniversary of the deadly shooting in Tucson, Arizona. The NRA is taking issue with a portion of the dispatch aimed at their organization. The attack seriously wounded Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, killed a federal judge, a congressional aide, and 4 others, and left 12 other people wounded. Arizona man Jared Loughner was sentenced to serve the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. The punishment includes 7 consecutive life terms plus 140 years. Well, that seems a little bit excessive. As president, I pledge to continue to work together with Congresswoman Giffords and with survivors, families, and advocates across the country to get Corn Pop on this problem and defeat the NRA. We're going to send Corn Pop after him. He's a real bad dude, okay? And end the epidemic of gun violence in America, said a portion of the statement from the Biden transition team. 2020 was a historic year for gun violence in Missouri. The Post-Dispatch reported 689 people were shot and killed in the state last year. That record level was driven by more than 260 homicides in St. Louis and 161 in Kansas City. Well, take people's livelihoods away from them a little bit harder and lock them a little bit further into their homes. On Friday, Biden pledged to defeat the NRA. Biden wants to ban our semi-auto rifles, tax our guns, mags, and more. He knows that the only thing standing in his way to dismantle the Second Amendment is the NRA. Gun owners must stay vigilant and be engaged in elections and the legislative process. Well, I don't really have faith in the NRA that they're going to dismantle bullshit because I can cite the bump stock ban. The NRA gets involved in a fight if it gets them political clout. It can get them to sell memberships and get more money. If they can beg donations from their supporters and say, please, if you don't just send us $10, the evil federal government might take away your guns. Please. But then once a bump stock executive order goes in, they don't do jack shit. They don't even make a ripple on that. The NRA is not on your side. They are bullshit. Do not give money to them. Find a better organization to give money to. But they do make a good boogeyman, and, you know, people like Joe Biden can focus their efforts on the NRA, who has a bunch of money and will fight him, while all the other organizations actually do the hard work on the ground without getting much attention from people like Joe Biden. So they do serve a purpose. It's not the purpose they tell you they serve, but they do serve a purpose. All right, last one, and then we'll do Twitter trending. And I don't think Elaine is watching right now, so the secret is this is going to be surprise stupidity next week. Unless something even stupider happens, which, given everything else we see going on around the country right now, is a distinct possibility. Someone wrote Trump on the back of a manatee in Florida, and the feds are investigating. This isn't The Onion. This isn't the Babylon Bee. This is an actual headline. From Carlos Garcia. Federal officials are seeking information from the public after a manatee was discovered in Florida, with a political message written on its back. Video shows the manatee with the word Trump scrawled on its skin. Florida's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said that the mammal was swimming in the Blue Hole in the Homosassa River in Citrus County, Florida. The Citrus County Chronicle reported that Florida officials are working with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service on the incident. Senior federal wildlife officer Craig Cavana told the Chronicle, "I cannot comment on a current ongoing investigation." He added that they are following leads on the case. Cavana added that the harassment of the manatee is a Class A federal criminal offense and punishable by up to $50,000 in fines and /or up to a year in federal prison under the Endangered Species Act. The Center for Biological Diversity decried the incident and offered a $5,000 reward for information that led to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrator. People are dumb, man. People are fucking dumb. That's all I have to say to that. People are dumb. I don't care who did it. People are dumb. All right. I want to see. I mean, was this painted or was this etched into it? Because now this here is saying etched in. Let's have a quick listen to this.
Federal wildlife authorities say someone carved the word Trump into the back of a manatee. It was found swimming in Citrus County, around 75 miles north of the Tampa Bay area. Manatees are protected by the Endangered Species Act. It is a federal criminal offense to harass them. Anyone with any information on who might be behind it is asked to call the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Katie Johnston for CBSMiami.com.
Okay, that just makes that horrifying, the fact that that happened like that. Now, I thought, and, you know, written the way it's up here, I thought maybe somebody had taken body paint and written it on the back of a manatee. Because, I mean, you can see that where it says somebody wrote Trump on the back of a manatee in Florida and the feds are investigating. Yeah, that would suggest body paint to me. Like, the thing beached itself, so somebody, like an idiot, either got some spray paint or some body paint and did that. Which the spray paint probably wouldn't be a good thing either for it, but, you know, Florida. But yeah, if they took a knife and did this, this is probably not going to be surprise stupidity then at that point, because this is too dark for that segment. This is way too dark for that segment, but that is horrifying. All right, and that's going to be it. For the news, let's go over here and see what's on the Twitter trending for the day. Give that a second to catch up. I don't know why this thing defaults my DM bar open either. Oops, notifications. I didn't want notifications. I want the Explore page. All right, on Twitter trending. Number 1, Sheldon Adelson. In memoriam, Las Vegas Sands CEO Sheldon Adelson dies at 87. Apparently he represents the best of the American dream, American patriot and giant among men. His philanthropic generosity changed countless lives in the U.S.-Israel relationship and is stronger today because of him. I don't know who this dude is. Apparently, he's implicated in targeted spying operation against Assange. He was a casino magnate, and he was the guy that decided who was going to run for Republican offices. Apparently, he was a kingmaker. Well, Godspeed to his family, I guess. Number 2, Azealia. Every time Azealia Banks trends, I always think of this Wild N' Out episode. Cats when they see Azealia Banks coming. I don't know who Azealia Banks is. But apparently he's canceled. I can't believe that Azealia just cooked her cat from the dead. It was buried. Okay. I don't want to know. There's some things out there that you just don't want to know. We'll skip the Tuesday vibe. We'll go in, and Chuck Norris is trending. That'll be number 3. Sir Christopher Lee, he was Dracula, a Bond villain. He was Sherlock in Mycroft Holmes. He was Death, Lucifer, Count Dooku. Saruman, Summer Isle. He did a heavy metal album, hunted Nazis during World War II. Yeah, Christopher Lee was a badass. Are we not going to mention the fact that Chuck Norris was at the MAGA insurrection? Was he? Apparently he was. So they're turning on Chuck Norris because this photo popped up. Well, whatever. I love how you can be in Hollywood and you're not allowed to have your own opinions. That they have to decide it for you. All right, what's Portfolio Day? That'll be number 4. Portfolio Day. Apparently, people coming out and putting out artistic portfolios for the day. I've never heard of Portfolio Day. But you learn something new every day. Some of this stuff is actually pretty talented, too. Some of these people should be proud of it. Some of it's kind of dark and weird, but a lot of it's really, really talented. So, hey, of course, the algorithms are going to favor the talented ones, the ones that people keep liking and clicking on, but hey, good on these guys. I'm not an artist. Not a lot of stuff that I could do here, but, I'm glad that people are taking the initiative and doing it. That one's kind of cool. I like that. All right. And the last one for the day, then, will be Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury will be unleashed in a new Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury trailer tomorrow. Come back at 6 a.m. Pacific time to see the 2-minute long trailer. That's kind of neat. I'm not going to lie, that's kind of cool. I don't know what Bowser's Fury is, and I don't have a console new enough to play it. But apparently there's a trailer out for it, and it looks pretty cool. All right, and that's going to be it for the Twitter trending for the day. So we're going to call it a day on this one here. Going to grab some breakfast, get ready to go and go to work here. So we'll head on out of here. Thanks everybody who came out and hung out today, including the people who stuck around after we had some technical glitches. I know it's a little bit hard at the beginning of things when stuff starts glitching out and you don't know what's going to go on, but you guys are faithful and loyal, and thanks for hanging out throughout the rest of the show here after we got everything caught back up. I'll be back here tomorrow for more contemporary, see what else the news comes with, and we'll talk about something that I'm thankful for. I skipped you for something that restores my faith in humanity, so we will definitely do something I'm thankful for tomorrow. I'm going to start thinking about it now, what I'm going to put up there for the day. So we will do that, plus the news, and plus hanging out. And remember, if you are in the chat, at least get one message in there throughout the day so I can add your name to the notebook and we can read it on the air at the end of the week. So, we will see you tomorrow. For more Contemporary, until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.